this meeting is recorded. I know this
been
is a small
recording
thing.
for a while.
I know this is a small thing. Oh yeah, you've been recording on your end.
It's been on my side.
I recorded these each. We just did a previous episode with GKR, who is about to shout himself out. But first, I just need to say, fuck you, Zoom. Put it back to this meeting is being recorded instead of recording in progress because it's nonsense. Also, this is Quibbles over coffee. Hey, what's up, GKR? Who are
Hey guys, what's up? Well, happy to be back to this episode that's definitely not occurring sequentially. As you can tell by my same shirt, same headset, and same background.
What are you talking about? This one, I have a cup, and this, therefore, is a different episode. That's
right.
how cups work. Actually, no.
I'm happy. I didn't have to get into the alcohol supply to have that last conversation. Sometimes when I talk to free speech absolutists, I have to go grab the alcohol supply to get through ideological thought processes. But we didn't even get there.
We didn't even get there. Yeah.
I was happy. It was a good one.
All right, Houston. We're about to explain. Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't introduce yourself. Who are you, GKR?
Oh yeah, I talk about politics on the internet on occasion. I stream on twitch.tv to GKR Live. I stream less than I make like random uploaded content that topics that annoy me or interest me, and that's on YouTube. Search GKR. It might show up, but it probably won't. Easier way, let's go to Counterpoints. You find his YouTube channel, and then like somewhere there's a video with me. That'd probably be the quickest way to find my channel.
Fair enough. Okay, cool. Houston, do you want to explain our idea?
Yeah, so we were doing research on the transit episode, I think. And we came across the California Transit Authority. I don't remember what it's called, but they elect all of their members, or like all of the heads of their members, like from the populace. And so I don't remember how we got here, but we were talking about, is it a good idea? Is that a good idea? Like, should we be electing like these people? And I think we didn't fully discuss it. So in this episode, we're going to fully discuss this idea. But we kind of came to the consensus that maybe it would be a good idea to somehow vote on cabinet members. Jonah, do you remember your system?
Yeah. So basically, I took off my hat because it was frustrating me. But basically, the idea would be that we want to have as much sort of oversight as possible over what's going on in our government. And one of the problems is that earlier in the last episode, actually, GKR, you were saying how you're concerned that a lot of times we sort of aren't able to figure out like which particular issues matter more, and it's very difficult to figure out a way of like balancing what matters the most. And I think one way of really figuring it out and doing that better is allowing for there to be people who are running on specific measures for like the Bureau of Land Management, who are running on specific measures for the secretary for foreign policy, secretary of state, who are running on all of these different particular issues that are very important and affect millions of people, but are also not necessarily being discussed on a daily basis by the presidential candidate. And so the idea was that instead of just having a primary that exclusively focuses on who's going to be the nominee for the president, we could also have dual primaries. This is not suggesting something constitutional. This is not suggesting anything that would actually be part of the government itself, but just within the Democratic Party, we could instead have primaries simultaneously as well for every single cabinet position, and therefore you'd have a bunch of people pushing ideas, particularly to do with particular issues.
Because we've talked before about how the president isn't really doesn't do much, and it's more about like who he brings into the office
or whatever.
Yeah, and like what kind of platform that they do, because like the each of the cabinet is kind of like its own thing where they oversee like the interior or like the treasury, whatever, and those things are kind of
would
affect like on a day-to-day basis more than just like the president.
Would the president still have like power over the president can like all the cabinet members serve at the discretion of the president. You could like fire the president can fire them on a whim, basically, right? Yep. Would still be a thing, or would it basically just sort of be like
I think the way I would probably want to design it is that you'd have, this might not necessarily be something built into law, but just sort of a ruling by the DNC, but the Democratic National Committee, would make a rule that would say that you're not allowed to fire them during your tenure as president. And if you do want to fire them, you have to get the consent of the majority of other members of the cabinet to get on board.
Yeah, like sort of like an impeachment, but within like the cabinet. If you want to
within
remove
the cabinet
the president
of other cabinet members, exactly.
That makes sense. I kind of like it. There's a I feel like there's an even more radically democratic process. I actually I'm gonna shout out. This is my favorite fucking podcast, Ezra Klein's podcast. If you want to hear interesting people talk about interesting things, oh fuck, I love Ezra Klein. Okay, my favorite fucking lib of all time. All right. I love good-hearted technocratic libs like him. So he had someone on recently who talked about how like in Western democracies, this notion of democracy about controlling your own destination as like sort of devolved down to what's it called? It's sort of devolved down to like every so often you get to vote on elected representatives, and that's democracy, right? As opposed to some more like robust system where while you can have elected officials who like do things like that, having like a more active involvement. For example, like having pools of people who are selected to like serve in a government or a power government like body where they like decide on issues, right? Like we could just randomly sample the population, take 1,000 people or 100,000 or 100 or 1,000, not 100,000. People who will get together and try and solve issues, right? Then you give them like advisors who they can ask like questions to, like experts, and like fundamentally you just have these regular people put in a position where for like a few weekends over the course of like a few months end up trying to make big decisions or come with policies that they'd want to like generally support, and like just having like a more like robust democratic system where you have this direct say of like citizens or direct involvement of like the citizens in it, not even just through like weird things like ballot initiatives, but like literally like okay. Like similar to jury duty, right? Instead of jury duty, like for 4 weekends a month, like we're gonna get like 1,000 people, like a representative sample, and they're going to like discuss issues and try and reach like conclusions, And it's very like ingratiating, like because you just ask like random people to solve like actual issues, like you'll become experts. Like a good example would be like on local politics, right? Like I have like you, me, a conservative, and like a crazy libertarian. Well, maybe not libertarian, but like we need to discuss like an issue of fixing the potholes in the city. Like our political differences are irrelevant. Like the potholes need to get fixed. We're going to talk about like, okay, how are we going to do it? What company are we going to contract? Like, what's our time frame for this? When does it need to be done by? How often is the maintenance schedule going to be? And like, there's no ideological difference here. The potholes need to get fucking fixed. We're going to fix the goddamn potholes, right? And I think like when you get people talking about the specifics of an issue, it's the way it says like you avoid like that surface level problem of like only looking at issues from this like weird top down like I have this zingy one liner and that's how I understand an issue, and getting people like into like the nitty gritty, and like the nitty gritty is where like you understand the nuance, people are able to like agree. So I'd say even more radically, apart from just electing the cabinet, we have like a large like body comprised of like citizens who like let's say like rotate through them like every like 3 months or something, who are tasked with solving certain issues that they have to talk about and like present proposals to like Congress, and then Congress has to vote on them or whatever.
Interesting. And you just mean just like representative, like the same as jury duty type thing.
Yeah, you just like pull from the population, like just get some sort of like I don't know, like stratified sample of like the population, so you get like adequate representation from across the spectrum. Didn't mean to derail the conversation, but I was like, let's go further. More democracy. More democracy.
But like, so what kind of issues would it be relegated to just issues within their community, or like what could it be blown up to like larger countrywide issues?
Yeah, I think you can like, I'm not sure. I mean, and when you get down to it, I guess like the local like governments sort of function like that a little bit already. Like you can have citizens just like show up. I think we should develop a culture where that's like more encouraged, where people get involved like better in local politics. You can definitely do that for like the state level and federal government. So from what I gathered, like France basically did this, and it's not like these people get to just decide laws. They get to you give them experts to consult, to give them opinions, try and explain to them topics so that they can make like an informed decision on like what they think is best based on like 2 expert testimonies explaining like the difference of issues. And basically they had a slate of proposals that they submitted to do they have a parliament in France? I don't think it's a parliament, is it? I don't think they use a parliamentary system because they have a president. Whatever. Their legislative body, whatever it's called.
I don't know exactly how they do it.
Well, we'll just say the legislative body. So they submit the slate of proposals to the legislative body, and one of the issues was that once the legislature got a hold of it, they sort of stripped out some of the more popular things. They got rid of some things people liked. But here's the thing. You're talking about issues now, right? You're talking about the things that the people wanted to do, and the government needs to say, hey, here's why we're not doing it, right? You're giving people a direct say in that process, as opposed to what we have now, where like, a Republican or whoever, a Democrat can filibuster a bill, and there's not even a discussion on it. Like, there's no discussion of a topic, and those are topics being presented by senators, not even the people. But if you're making, like, your elected governments or your elected officials have to talk about a given issue because the people brought it to their attention, say, hey, here's the bill we want, here's the policy we want, here's how it was written by, like, the professionals that, like, we, like, agreed with and that we voted for collectively. Like, Like, I live in Florida, and every single good thing in this state comes from a ballot initiative, which is so funny because like the population is like we passed like this whole $15 minimum wage thing irrelevant in Florida. We have it in our constitution as of this election. We have it.
Yeah.
So it's
we've talked a lot about minimum wage on our show. I'm not a fan of minimum wage, which I'm happy to get into at a different time, but not in this particular one. Yeah.
More democracy, better.
Save me. Save me.
Houston's just mad because I got into a beef with like everyone online about minimum wage, but no worries about that. It eventually involved both Vosh and Destiny and Sean.
You argued with all of them? Congratulations. I'm sure that was fun.
Well, not in person on Twitter, but Twitter's a hellhole. Yeah, Twitter's not good. Anything that happens on Twitter is bad.
Nuke Twitter.
Nuke Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
You like it. I also like it. I'm just not sure. Because like, okay, so there's a couple of things that I'm worried about. The first thing I'm worried about is, can we just like do things like that when we don't actually have the government on board? Like, there are so many. Here's a problem that I see. I think there's a problem in that there's like so many differences between the way that the Democrats run their party, the Republicans run their party, that literally people don't even know what a superdelegate is, right? In 2016, like all of a sudden, like that was the first, admittedly it was the first election that I really paid attention to, but I never learned in like in my education in high school or in middle school about like what a superdelegate is. They were just like, well, you vote, and there's like this Electoral College thing and blah, 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 blah. But now I have to care about superdelegates? Like, who the hell is this guy? Right? And now all of a sudden I have to care about like the difference between a primary and a caucus, and I have to understand like all of this like really weird in the weeds like nonsense. So are we worried that there's like implications to having elections run differently by the Democrats and elections run differently by the Republicans comparative to how it's done in a general election?
It's sort of like having like weird process like that, I think, is annoying. Like, I hate the Supreme Court, but I'll give them credit. Like, the more transparent, the more clear things are in the lead up to an election, the better they are. They usually use that rationale in response to, like, ungerrymandering a district, or, whether certain groups are or are not allowed to vote. But I think there's something to be said for, like, having a process that's so fucking unbelievably convoluted that no one can ever reasonably hope to expect it unless they're like, I don't know, like, I just want to say Senate parliamentarian because I just found out that's an actual position like 3 months ago. But like someone who's so like invested in the process, they're like, yeah, I work for the DNC. Like, yeah, I'm sure someone at the DNC, but like, as the average asshole, like this process should not be so convoluted to where they don't understand like the value of their vote or something like that,
Right. So are we worried about that? First of all, I want to clarify. I think caucuses should be abolished. I think we should abolish everything that's not just a direct like fucking vote. And that's how you should do it.
The caucuses,
like everything.
Went to Bernie Sanders, and they're politically expedient for
ugly.
me.
So weird.
They're so gross. Like I just can't. I know you're like
they
kind
seem
of kidding
like fun,
about the whole.
though.
They're not.
I was
but
like,
I would
wouldn't
have
it be
fun.
cool to like? Wouldn't it be
I would have
cool
fun
to, like,
because I
go
liked
to,
Model
like,
UN. But like, I'm sorry, democracy should not be Model UN, because in Model UN, Jonah's just like a bully and just demands that everyone agrees with Jonah.
Right.
And then they do agree with me, and then everything works out for me. But it's not like it's working out for society. It's just working out for me. That's not how democracy
So,
should
Jonah,
work.
are you saying if you're particularly loud and particularly boisterous that you can
Yeah.
force other people to your will, and that's fundamentally manipulating their perspective?
I'm
on an
absolutely
issue?
saying that you can be manipulative. I am not saying that it should
Interesting.
be illegal writ large. He's trying to weasel it back into the conversation about free speech that we had in our last conversation. But it's bullshit. What you're saying is an absolute lie. You know it's a lie, because that is completely distinct from making it illegal for Jonah to be loud. Okay, I'm suggesting that Jonah shouldn't just be able to immediately and directly control the vote by looking at how other people are voting, literally in the same room, literally pressuring them, just like giving them a death glare and forcing them to vote my way. That is distinct from allowing people to speak. Yes.
Yeah, but you can give them cookies, and then
Literally, people straight up just bribe people. Can we talk about that in caucuses? They're like, oh my god, like, do you want to have some tea? Do you want? That's bribery.
Y'all want some pay? Well, actually, in Georgia, they're trying to ban like giving people water while they're online for the polls. I don't know if you came across that. It's somewhat related to this topic, I guess, where like, Democrats won Georgia. Let's see what all the voter suppression we can do. So they're banning like souls to the polls. And one of the legislative proposals was you can't give out to water who people are waiting online. And one of the things is like they'll make it so if you're trying to vote in a place like Fulton County or anywhere in like the Atlanta metro, like the lines will be super long, so you have to wait super long. And so eventually, some people, it's an edge game. You'll probably shave off a few thousand votes here or there. That's the whole idea. And it's like, well, when you're waiting online, like sometimes you might want some goddamn water, and it's like, oh,
that's wild.
Nope, we're not gonna let you get water now. Anti-democracy water.
Yeah.
That's communist water right there.
Water is communism. You heard it here first, folks. Yes. It's actually Georgism, unironically, but it's also communism, ironically. Okay, so cool. We don't want to make it too complicated. Are we making it too complicated by allowing people to vote for Bureau of Land Management?
Ooh.
Because I care a hell of a lot about who's the head of the Bureau of Land Management. The majority of people just don't give a shit.
Right.
But they'd probably maybe still vote.
I think it'd be complicating it if it was only one party that was doing it. Because, like you said, they don't really teach party-specific rules in school, but they don't really teach government in school either. So I don't. I guess that doesn't really matter.
I feel like it's not a lot to ask. I do vote by mail. Thank you, Florida, for making that harder, by the way, in response to Democrats winning an election. Sorry, I have a lot of complaints about voter suppression and all these stupid reforms because dumb people lied about the. So listen, my actual complaint about this whole like spreading misinformation is that's making my life marginally more difficult. Okay, that's my problem. I've been marginally inconvenienced, therefore conservatives banned off Twitter. That's the real truth. But like when I get my ballot, like I do mail-in ballots, and like I'll spend like a couple of hours like looking up platforms, looking at each politician, and then like deciding in that way. Now, tends to like the Republicans tend to usually be horrible, except when it's at like a really local level, at which point like there is some differentiation here. So I do think there is like I don't think it's unreasonable to say like, oh, there's like a dozen cabinet positions or so. I think there's like 12.
Yeah, I think it's
there's 11.
There's 11.
I was gonna say 11 and I rounded up, and now I feel bad. I was almost
gotcha.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
In terms of voter suppression, this is from Trump. It's a mail-in ballot that I got in Pennsylvania.
He sent you a mail-in ballot?
He sent every single registered Republican. It was to the House because I was living in the fraternity at the time. And he sent a mail-in ballot to literally every single person who was a registered Republican in the entire state.
Apply for your. President Trump wants you to return this form. Oh, so So like you like send it out and then you get a ballot.
So he sent mail-in ballots to every single person who was a Republican, a registered Republican.
Wait,
in the entire state.
That's like a request for a ballot, or
it's a request for a ballot. Yeah.
And he still lost. That's incredible.
And he still lost.
Did the Democrats do that? Did you get one from the Democrats?
I didn't, but yeah. No, it's crazy. That's so.
I had no idea about
insanity. That. You're also in Pennsylvania, though.
Dude, the fraud was coming from inside the House this whole time.
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
If he ever tries to tell you that he doesn't believe in the legitimacy of a mail-in ballot, he's lying because he voted by mail, and also he's lying because he gave me one.
Wait, are you saying that fascists talk out of both sides of their mouth? No.
Am I saying that Trump is a liar? Yes.
No way. That's actually funny. It's amazing I didn't come across that this whole time. That's my new slam dunk thing. I'm going to find sources for that, and I'm going to just throw it at conservatives when election fraud comes up. Here's Trump encouraging election fraud. Yeeted. Yep. I think looking at the platforms of 12 like national politicians to vote on is not a huge ask. And I sort of thought about this. I do think this exists in some places where like you have like when people go to vote in person, which I think is stupid anyway. It should all be done through mail so you can look up your candidates and vote responsibly. Like the first time I ever went to vote, like I was like, yeah, I'm going to go vote for Gary Johnson because like I was a dumb fucking kid and I thought that made sense. In 2012, that's the first time I voted. And when I got there and I went to go vote, I was so excited about that. And then there was like 40 choices to make, and I'm just like, yo, I don't know anything about any of these other people. I feel like a dumbass. Like here I am filling out boxes. I'm like, bro, I don't even know what it fucking means. I'm just like, oh, one person says Democrat, one says Republican. I know generally what I believe and generally what I think these groups tend to align towards on these given issues. So like I voted in that way, but it's like Man, it would have been. And since then, I've always done mail-in voting, so that I can like figure out what these people like believe based on like the policy positions you put forward. I can look you up. I can see like, okay, are you a big fucking liar? Like, is there a debate available, or is there a thing of you like responding in long form to questions through like some like like local newspaper or whatever? Like, there are things to get more information with that, and that's really annoying when you do like local politicians, because generally their information, like sometimes I'll like they won't have a campaign website, they won't even have like those weird like public forms filled out on like Ballotpedia or whatever, where like we ask the candidate, we send them this form of questions, and here's their answers, and some of them just won't even fill that out. I'm like, I'm not voting for you if you don't tell me anything about you. If for nothing else, you clearly don't give a shit, which is a disqualifier.
Right.
But yeah, like just having like maybe like a standardized like website where you have like those forms where candidates can like go out and like you can get like robust information on like their policy, their platforms in general, not like maybe the specifics, but I do feel like that'd be really good for like democracy.
Yeah, and to clarify, I'm not suggesting this at like the local level necessarily, that we should be voting on every single thing as the public in terms of like how state land is being controlled and how all of that stuff is being done. I am comfortable with that being, the purview of the governor. But I think it's just like an existential terror that there is a president who has this much power over this many people. I just think it's like very dangerous. Even if you're voting them in, I still think it's just fundamentally undemocratic, considering like how much we've given them this much control.
Like, the argument in favor, I feel like, would be like, oh, well, they're going to get like the best people to do the job, but it's like, I look like I'm like Pete Buttigieg's leading the Department of like Transportation or whatever. Like, what the fuck are his qualifications for this?
That's one of it. Yeah, that's one component of it.
I'm sure he'll do okay at it. Like, I'm sure he'll do okay at it. Like, whatever. But like, if the argument's like they're going to put technocratic people in charge, and like,
it's wrong. They're going to use it to figure out some favors to political beneficiaries. I mean, that's one component of it. The second component of it is like, I'm sorry, but like Obama, very smart as a senator, very smart as like, very competent in terms of his fiscal policy, whatever it might be. But like, did he know about foreign policy going into his presidency? No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So like, why the fuck should he be the commander in chief? Like, why the fuck should we trust him to be the one who's doing that? Like, okay, McCain, like very much, obviously he did know about foreign policy a hell of a lot, right? But like, does McCain really like know what he's doing in terms of like the Bureau of Land Management? Does he understand like public lands? Does he understand like how we should be, designing our financial policy? Like all of this? Of course not. What are you talking about? This guy is not qualified for that. I mean, like, I think there's an assumption that the president just like knows everything. They just don't. Like Biden does not have experience in every single component of American society.
The idea is like you're supposed to like hire, like you're supposed to surround yourself with people who will give you competent, informed opinions on an issue, and then hopefully you're able to have a good sense of judgment. Like unironically,
they don't even know who's qualified.
Yeah.
Like how could they know who's qualified?
At a certain point, I guess you just like take like the consensus of like who's qualified for what, and you just kind of go with like a plurality of like the area of that opinion.
Right.
Like that's sort of it. Like it's sort of like you're almost just going down the epistemological rabbit hole of like, how do we know what we know? And it's like, well,
how do we know?
Yeah. How do we know anything? How do we know that like Pete Buttigieg is not qualified to be Secretary of the whatever the fuck transportation?
Yeah, I mean, it's clever. In his particular case, it's pretty obvious because he doesn't believe in like bodily autonomy, and he's a terrible human being. But
does he not?
That's completely different.
I didn't even know that.
Oh my God, he is awful. He wants to have a mandatory draft, which is absolutely disgusting and evil in every level. But that's a completely different conversation. Don't worry about it. The point, though, the point is that I just think that this is a real problem, that we just have so much power in the president's hand, and I don't know how to get around it, unless we're able to sort of just like divest away from that. That was a weird word to use, but I'm gonna stand by it. Divest away from like the power of this individual person.
Do you like the parliamentary system over the presidential system?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I used to be against it, and I'm like, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, it's like really bad that when the president gets into office that they owe favors to like all of these different people. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's good. Like, I don't want a president to be like smart. I don't want a president to be like an independent thinker, a free thinker. I don't want them to like making their own decisions. What the fuck are you talking about? Why would you want that? That's terrible. That's awful.
Yeah.
Like, it's so dangerous.
Well,
I don't want a leader to lead me. I want a follower to lead me so I can tell them what to do, you know?
I can't wait. Hold on. Was this a joke? Do you know?
No, I'm totally serious.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. It's not a joke at all. I want a follower to be my president so that the follower can follow what I tell them to do. That's the goal. You know? Like, absolutely. Of course that's the goal. Like, why would that not be the goal?
Yeah, it's like the whole political outsider meme in the United States is just, I don't know if this is a uniquely American thing, but like, why do we want a political outsider? Why do we want someone who's so fucking stupid they don't know how anything functions? Like Bernie Sanders, like, for whatever you want to say, like, I love Bernie Sanders, but like, not a political outsider. He's done this for like decades. He's like, listen, I understand the system, I understand how it fucks you, and that's how I'm gonna like undermine and change the system. You know, like,
yes.
Is my
I like
old
the voice.
Is my old Jewish man accent? Is it on point?
It is an on-point old Jewish man. It's not quite schlubby enough, but other than the schlub, it was pretty close.
I'm from the other side of New York City. I'm not from Brooklyn, so I do not have that superpower in me.
Yeah, that's too bad.
It's a shame that accent's dying. It's fucking beautiful.
It's such a nice accent. It's very frustrating.
It's like this "Make America Great Again" type meme, you know? Like, this is like the old school. Like, this is like the real New Yorker. This is the real American. This is how they talk. You know? Like, I don't know. It's like we're just losing that. They're just dying.
We're losing it. It's terrible. Everyone's just going to sound the same. It's going to be terrible. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think that's like a very important like step there. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I don't want no more Ross Perot's or Donald Trump's.
No more Ross Perot. What's your thought on third parties?
So I want like ranked choice voting, and I want to build viable third parties in states. What I think would be really fucking funny is if like let's just say like the state of Pennsylvania ends up like going like, I don't know, green or libertarian or third party yet to be announced, and you get to like the Electoral College or something, and like you have just like no one has 270 and they get to be kingmaker. It would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, huh.
Well, they wouldn't. It would go as it sits currently, it would go to Congress, but it wouldn't actually go to Congress. It would go to Congress with each state choosing one person, and each state getting equal power.
Well,
which is also ridiculous.
Well, it's only
freaking
ridiculous.
So that's only if there's a non-majority like in the vote. This whole process is made up horseshit. Like, on the topic of completely nonsensical, ridiculous shit that's so hard to comprehend, I know way more. College. Yeah, I know way more about the Electoral College now than any human being in their right mind should. But like, it doesn't necessarily even need to function in that way. So like, you can have that like third party group, and they can just vote for whoever they want. Like, also depends on the state. Like, you wouldn't necessarily be bound. Like, I feel like if my third party won, I'd want them to like negotiate some sort of like coalition power. Like, okay, we'll make you president, but we want cabinet. Like, let's say green. Like, I want Department of Energy cabinet seat, and then like you become president. Right,
but it's not even them who's deciding. It's not even the people who are elected. It's the people who are currently Congress people, not even the ones who just got voted in as Congress people, but the people who are Congress people before that are the ones who are able to decide who is and is not counted, who they choose as a state. So like, if you have Kansas only has Sharice Davids, and other than that is completely Republican. I believe literally.
Where they can just not seat all the Republicans to make.
Yeah. So if it went libertarian, they would just choose the Republican because they have the majority of Republicans seats in Congress.
That's one of those like fucky things. You realize like if the shoe was on the other foot, right? Like if Republicans controlled the House of Representatives, like they could, like, and Trump wanted to do his coup, like there was a mechanism for that.
Well, they did control it. That's the problem. They controlled, like, even though we had more seats in it, both before and after 2020 election, they had the majority of states. So they actually could have, if it went to the Congress, they would have won. Now it didn't go to Congress because it couldn't go to Congress because there was already someone who got 270.
But that's the point you were making though, right? Like, because like the Speaker of the House is the first person chosen, and then she has to swear in every member of the House for that Congress. This is on January 3rd, I think, is when they do this.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the exact.
It's before the president.
Yeah. Basically, like she could just not swear in Republicans, like, or you could just not swear in the other party, right? And if you didn't swear in the other party, then technically, like, there's one Democrat from Kansas. Well, then that person votes for the Democrat nominee because the rest of the Republicans.
I don't think that's how it works, because I think that the people, until they're sworn in, the people who are in it previously are still counted as Congress people, and the swearing in process is also counted as the swearing out process for the other person who was in it previously. So Kansas, for example, was majority Republican prior to 2020.
To be clear, I am repeating a thing that I saw on a YouTube video from a constitutional lawyer, so you can feel free to discard it. They might have been wrong, but it was It was do you watch Legal Eagle ever? I love Legal Eagle videos. I like law stuff in general.
I don't know Legal Eagle. Interesting.
Legal Eagle is
I know everyone on YouTube, but I don't know Legal Eagle. Houston always judges me because I watch entirely too much YouTube content.
He's got 2 million subscribers. He usually goes over like legal issues. Like it's more of like a podcast than it is like a YouTube channel where he just goes over like legal cases or like what's going on in the country at the moment or like niche topics or whatever. And I think he recommended this video from some other like constitutional lawyer who's just like he's like, listen, I'm a Republican and I vote Republican, but this shit is wacky and insane and you guys don't understand this process. And then he just went through the whole thing for like 45 minutes. I was like, okay, you seem trustworthy. Like, this is the thing, you make this holistic thing like, yeah, he seems trustworthy because like he's caveating his speech. Like that's one of my things. Like the aesthetic of propaganda is like you don't caveat speech, you come off strongman. So it's like, oh, the way he's being like super like, yeah, okay, you come from a reputable source and you caveat your speech and talk in a way that comes off legitimate. Yeah, you're probably okay. Gotcha. But hey, he could have just been wrong about everything. Maybe I'm the dum-dum.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Houston, any thoughts? This has been a pretty short episode, but that's okay.
I guess the one thing that we didn't talk about is, can we do this?
Oh yeah.
How do we do this?
Oh yeah. So okay, I obviously have a master plan. I always have a master plan. That's how it works. My master plan is the following. I want to first. I'm going to have someone, or it's going to be me potentially, if this doesn't happen in time. But someone is going to run for president. They're going to get onto the stage to run for president, and then as soon as they're on stage, they're going to say, "Okay, I'm not actually running for president. I'm running for Secretary of Bureau of Land Management, or whatever the fuck, some like obscure thing in the cabinet." And then everyone's going to say, "Wait, what the fuck? What the fuck are you talking about?" Then they say, "Yes. Every single question that you ask me, I'm only going to answer it with respect to what will I do from my position as Secretary of State or as Secretary of whatever it might be." And then that's how you answer every single question, number one, on that day. Now, you probably won't be welcome back for the next time because obviously you're not running for president. But you will continue to campaign constantly for that position. And every single time anyone asks, you'll constantly just keep on campaigning to be the secretary of this individual thing. And it has to be someone who's relatively well known. As that happens, the reality is that you will also start to have like these questions come up. Like, you can't do that. That's not how things work. You can't no one's going to vote for you to be the secretary of that, because no one can vote for you to be secretary of that. You'll say, it doesn't matter. I'm running for it anyway. And then when the primary season runs around, you will say, listen, I will endorse you, or I will co-endorse everyone who gets on board and says that, Jonah will be the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. We're going to say, fantastic, I will do that. And then I endorse them all. And then I campaign for them. And I am now like an active voice of their policy with respect to this particular given issue. So in the same way that when we think about Andrew Yang, we're thinking about Tulsi Gabbard, who are very distinct people, obviously. But both of them had most of their campaign, their primary, around the universal basic income or around foreign policy, respectively. You'd have this person who's exclusively talking about this one given issue and this one given department, but they'd be a larger advocate for that policy prescription of these other candidates who are running for president. That'd be the first step. And then ideally, if they are successful, they would be able to convince the DNC to change the rules going into the next election. And then in 24, 28, whatever it might be, that's the next time around, they would actually be able to get that be an official part of the process for the national convention.
So I think I missed the beginning part of that. But are you saying you basically have primaries within a given party, and then functionally exactly. When you'd elect a president, it functions similar to the Electoral College then, right? So when you vote when you vote in a given state, the electors are already chosen by the party. And
so the way it would work is when you showed up to vote in the primary, you would be voting for a president who would have mostly veto powers and powers around that sort of world, powers with respect to the Senate, powers obviously as commander in chief. But also you'd be voting for the secretaries of all these different cabinet positions. And they would also show up on your ballot, literally part of the ballot. Now, this is only for the primary. They would not be part of the general election. In the general election, you'd only be voting for president. But you'd know as you vote for that president, because they'd already told you explicitly, here's the list of these people who are going to be in my cabinet. And also these people are going to maintain their position in their cabinet for that entire 4-year period because they're part of that whole process.
It does also get rid of that stupid ambiguity of will they or won't they? And do you avoid, I guess, the only problem I would see is you have to go through that cabinet. So cabinet nominees have to go through, I guess they don't even really have to, but in general, the formalities, they go through the Senate for approval. So you could have the Senate, let's say you get a really, really progressive, Secretary of Agriculture or something, right?
Right.
And like the Senate doesn't want to approve them, like I guess you would just put them as acting, and then you'd functionally just override
So
the Senate's
Richard
role.
Grinnell is an example. Richard Grinnell was the acting director of national intelligence for a long period of time. He's also on the staff of my school, and I fucking hate the guy, but that's a completely different conversation. But he was the acting director of national intelligence. He was never actually confirmed as acting as the director of national intelligence. The result of that is that you're only allowed to do it for a certain period of time. I think it's like 6 months before you're technically replaced. But I think the way you could do it potentially is you could either, hopefully all these people are just going to get accepted because they got the majority support within the primary, and then they also got their presidential pick was chosen as president. So ideally, they would just get confirmed. But if they can't get confirmed, you could potentially have them be the ones who gets to choose who their replacement might be.
Wait, is there a limit on how long you could be an acting secretary for?
Yeah, so you're technically not. So the acting secretary role is not supposed to be an actual role. It's supposed to just be like a thing that you're doing short period while they're trying to figure out who they can confirm. So in the case of President Trump was one of the first people who really like used this as an actual thing to get around the confirmation, because he didn't want to have people like Richard Grinnell be confirmed, because he knew that they wouldn't get confirmed because they fucking suck. But there's because it's only supposed to be a short period thing, while you're trying to get someone actually confirmed, you're only allowed to do it for, I think it's 6 months. I might be wrong. It might not be literally 6 months, but it's something around that.
Could you just
length.
like keep putting the same person forward as acting, or do you have to?
I don't
like,
know if
change
you could
it
do
up?
it. I would assume you can't. I would assume that you have to try to confirm someone after the 6 months, or try to have some new acting director. But yeah, there are limitations on it.
President after these periods assign non-exclusive duties to Yeah, apparently I'm just reading. Sorry, I'm reading the Federal Vacancies Reform Act of 1998. What an riveting topic. So it seems like it's incoming president 300 days in which can temporarily unilaterally fill positions with acting officers after this initial.
300 days. It's longer than I thought. Yeah.
Oh, this might just be when they're coming into office. Appointed office of. I'll read this later.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, that's a fair point. You do have to figure out a way to make these people get confirmed, which is worth discussion. And it's not something that we had discussed or thought about. At least I hadn't thought about it prior. Yeah.
Should we be having the Senate confirm the cabinet?
We should abolish the Senate.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna get some spicy take on that.
No,
we had an episode actually
where
we said we should abolish the Senate. Actually,
I'd be fine with rolling senators into the House, like, and just giving them their 6-year terms still until they fill them out or whatever. I don't know.
What was your idea? You said that the House would, or was it Eddie?
It might have been Eddie. Eddie had a bunch of interesting ideas.
I think the idea was that the House would be the sole legislative body where they make the laws. And the Senate would be there to
look pretty.
Teach the House members how to create laws, but then also
that's so paternalistic. I love it.
Fuck. I don't remember it exactly, but like it was a while back. It was basically it was like neutering. Yeah. It was like neutering the Senate and its power.
To neuter them.
They should
be neutered.
kind of broken.
They have way too much power.
It
kind of reminds me like just turn them into like the House of Lords, right? I don't know a whole lot, but from what I gather, the House of Lords is more or less like just a performative thing. Like they don't do anything. They're just like elites or something like that, and they just sit there just being jackasses. And the House of Commons does everything in the UK, like all the laws and everything. Yeah, they should just become that or just go away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a good move.
Unfortunately, it will never happen. So until then, DC statehood, Puerto Rico statehood, Guam statehood, Virgin Islands statehood.
We were talking about this on Tomfoolery earlier. Yeah, so
yeah.
Houston wasn't there, but we were talking about that on Tomfoolery. And I'm definitely on board with Puerto Rico, but I am not on board with your Guam take or your take on all these small islands that don't have.
If I'm gonna get
why are they like in the United States but not in the United States? Like,
I think they should be able to vote as though they're. I think they should just be consumed as a component of some other state. I think Hawaii should just include Guam, right, or something like that.
How about we make
in
Guam,
terms of senatorial powers?
Let's make Guam, Virgin Island. Let's like all those little ones that have like 100,000 people. How about all of them one state collectively?
Yeah, but even still, like their entire population. I mean, like we can pull it up.
Like 400,000, I think.
Is it even that high? Population of U.S. territories and states.
I just think it's ridiculous that they're part of the country but don't have any say, and it's
yeah.
Hey, let's just not even talk about what we did with the Philippines.
Share my screen.
Yeah.
U.S.
Here we go. Okay. So Puerto Rico is huge. Puerto Rico is bigger than 20 states.
This is also
yeah.
ridiculous.
So for context, like Puerto Rico, 3.2 million people, and then Wyoming has less than 600,000. So more than 5 times bigger.
I mean, if you combine those bottom 4, though, they'd be pretty close to Wyoming in population. I feel like any argument against them being one state could also be used against Wyoming being a state too. You know.
Yeah.
Fine. They don't have to be a state.
350,000 ish. So 350,000.
370. Don't shortchange them. Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. 370,000 ish. Yeah. Comparative to Wyoming. I mean, I don't think that. Here's my hot take. I don't think Sanders should be a senator. I don't think that Vermont deserves 2 senators. That's ridiculous. Wyoming does not deserve 2 senators.
Well, we all seem to want to get rid of. We all seem to want to get rid of it. I'm just saying, like, listen, if the system's absurd, you act within the absurd system. It's easier to probably just make more states than it is to, abolish the Senate. So fuck it. Let's make California like 3 states. Let's yeah, fuck it. I don't care. Like, it'll just get to an absurdity. Like, well, I'm not gonna say it'll get to an absurdity. I've made this argument to someone else. Like, listen, like we should just wouldn't it just get infinitely divisible? I'm like, yeah, sure. Each person is a state now. Like, we all get 2 votes in the Senate, each person. Like, I don't like. Obviously, at some point, it's gonna hit a wall where it's not gonna be like people don't want to keep like dividing their power and influence. But whatever.
Wait, I didn't realize that Hawaii is less than half the size of Puerto Rico.
What?
Like, I realized that Puerto Rico. No, in terms of population.
Oh.
Like I realized that it was like, huge, but it's literally twice the size of Hawaii, which I didn't realize like that comparison. It's just huge.
All right, Puerto Rico, 2 states. We make Puerto Rico 2 states.
Yes,
right.
I agree. Puerto Rico 2 states. California is 15 states. Actually, mathematically speaking, California should be more like 70 states comparative to Wyoming, which is 1 state, because otherwise it's fucking bullshit. That's not how math works.
What I want to do is devolve this into full absurdity. So the House only has 435 seats.
Yeah.
We create more than 435 states because every state's supposed to have 1 House seat, but now they can't because there's not enough.
Big brain.
Yeah, but I guess they could just expand.
That's a reasonable move. That's a reasonable move. Yeah, why not?
So it's not infinitely divisible. You have to keep dividing your population, and then it's sort of like what's it? I want to say Hot Chair. The game where you play the musical chairs.
Musical chairs. That's
you just don't want to be the state to divide after there's no more House seats left. That's what you want to avoid.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like we divided. Oh no, there's no House seat left. Oh well.
Yeah.
Guess we just get 2 senators.
At least you get 2 senators. Yeah, I would accept having 2 senator seats. Just me.
Just me.
Just me. I would accept.
It's like it's my left brain, my right brain. They have different. They enjoy different food. They're basically different people.
Yeah. Why shouldn't we just make every single American citizen 2 senators, not 1 senator?
Yeah.
But each one of us gets 2 senators.
It's like super democracy. Not
it's
1 person,
democracy.
1 vote. 1 person, 2 votes in the U.S. Senate.
Exactly.
You get 1 vote for president, but 2 votes in the U.S. Senate.
and you're we don't have universal basic income. Instead of universal basic income, what we have is every single one of us is universally employed by the state as a senator. All of us.
That's true.
And therefore,
that's
we have
perfect.
a salary. It's not universal basic income. It's a salary because we're all working as senators. That's what it is. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we just solved all the world's problems.
We solved America.
This is unironically ingenious. It's like my other stupid a friend of mine, like when conversations on like Discord are like getting boring or whatever, and we want to change the topic, we'll just start talking about our plans to fix climate change, which is just grow trees and throw them in a hole and just keep doing it. Like it's a make work project. It combats climate change because it's carbon sequestration. We just dig a hole, we throw some trees in it. We bury the hole. That's it. We just dig a hole, we throw trees in it. It's simple, beautiful, elegant, and it'll fucking work. All right. Just throw the trees in a hole.
Yeah.
Bury the hole.
I personally support a carbon dividend, but like
trees and
all above approach. You got to try everything. Yeah.
Capture that carbon. Throw it in a hole.
Throw it in a hole.
Close the fucking hole.
Cool. Houston, any last thoughts?
No, I think that's it. I think we're done for this. So we're gonna have Jonah's gonna run for Secretary of Urban Development in 2032.
Housing and urban development. It's 2 things. There's the housing and there's the urban development.
I'm sorry,
which are different. Yes.
You're gonna run for Secretary of Housing and Urban Development in 2032.
No. But for now, everyone needs to pretend to think that I'm running for president.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yes.
Jonah's running for president.
I'm running for president, and it's
Right.
definitely I'm definitely, truly, really am running for president. But also, I'm running for housing and urban
There is
development.
a
No, but you're not running for housing and urban development.
Not
You're running
yet.
for president.
Not yet.
No,
Yes.
but you're not.
Of course not. No, I would never.
No, yeah,
I would
right.
never.
fuck. Do you guys know like there was that comedy bit? It was like in like the 70s of like the guy who would just like talk about how he's seriously not running for president. Do you know what I'm talking about or no?
No.
It's actually sort of funny. Like most comedy doesn't age well. And I think this dude walking out like on stage in his suit and talking about how he's like seriously not running for president and talk about all the ways in which he's not running for president. It was pretty funny. That was a good bit of like satire.
Cool.
Fair enough. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I guess that's it for the episode.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe. We
thank you
adore
for
all of you.
watching.
You're fantastic. I'm a big fan of GKR's background thing. I'm not sure what it is, but
This
I like
thing, my Chinese sex slave thing, or my
now everything
actual
got
background.
political, and I don't know why you made everything political. We
I
were
was
having a
thinking
good
the way
time, and you
people
just made
make fun
everything
of
political.
Kyle Kalinske and how his old background used to look like he was in like a Chinese like hand shop like happy ending parlor, and like that's sort of what this is.
And you just wanted to become Kyle Kalinske. You wanted.
He's
to have,
my idol. I think that guy has
your idol?
every single political take correct. He's never said anything stupid in his life.
Not once. Not
he's
once. I want
he's
to
a
clarify for
boy
everyone.
genius.
Both GKR is lying, and if he's not lying, I am telling you he's lying. He's wrong.
I am certainly
All right.
lying.
Yes. All right. We love all of you. Bye.
Recording stopped.
Fantastic.